Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 131. Festival Celebration. 1 Shishan later. It was a summer afternoon. The breeze passed through the hall inside the exorcism department, and Chen Xing, at last, cooled off a little. The tree's shade was dappled, the wind chimes tinkling clear. Xiangshu, Chen Xing, and Xiao Shan, all half naked, were sitting on the porch, all wearing the same white thin underpants. Xiangshu was expressionless, while Chen Xing had an expression that seemed to say, "There's nothing I pursue in this life anymore." The men, 2 big and 1 small, were drinking sour plum drinks. "You've grown a lot taller." Chen Xing hadn't had much time to talk to Xiao Shan ever since he saw the boy again. Xiao Shan's height had soared compared to the moment that he left Chi Le Chuan for Dunhuang a year ago, already reaching Chen Xing's ears by the time he had returned. "Oh, I still can grow." Xiao Shan looked a bit lost in thought as he said so. He drank his sour plum drink and asked, "What are you doing?" "Cultivating." Xiangshu snapped his fingers, and a small golden flame, which came from the same origin as the heart lamp, flickered out from between. "Xiao Shan, ah." Xiangshu then signaled Xiao Shan to take a look. After making the shield appear by waving his wrist, he showed Xiao Shan several tricks. He didn't require Chen Xing to draw in the heart lamp's power anymore at this point. He also could transform into the protector martial god, although the mana still couldn't be regarded as very strong yet. Chen Xing was also very surprised. "Is this the benefit of igniting together?" "Xiao Shan, how did you do it?" "Get yourself an exorcist." After drinking the sour plum drink, Xiangshu put down his cup and no longer bothered himself with Xiao Shan. He got up and left, but he suddenly recalled something and explained to Chen Xing, "After starting the act of igniting together, we can only dual cultivate 2 days a month. Apart from that, abstinence is needed." "What?" Chen Xing was struck dumb. "How long will this take?" 12 months, replied Xiangshu. "Can you do it or not?" Chen Xing responded vaguely, "If you can do it, I can too." "Let's start, then," Xiangshu said. "What's dual cultivating?" Xiao Shan was puzzled. Don't ask," Chen Xing answered. "You'll know about it in the future." "Xiao Shan, I've already grown up." Chen Xing turned frantic. "But I really have no way to demonstrate it to you, Or maybe I can let you come in and watch us." After leaving the hallway, Xiangshu was just about to go back when Wenqie suddenly blocked his path. "Did it work?" Wenqie faintly inquired. Xiangshu didn't answer. He always couldn't help but regard Wenqie as a lady. But while he kept his usual serious attitude, Wenqie could still tell from his facial expression. "Are you this concerned about the way younger generations cultivate?" Xiangshu asked. Wenqie replied, "Curiosity lives in the hearts of all people. Let me take a look at your shield." The shield from Karakoram appeared in Xiangshu's arm with a motion of his wrist. Wenqie put his stretched hand on the side of the shield as he checked over it in wonder. Xiangshu had looked through all ancient records, but he still didn't know of the shield's origin. "You recognize it?" "Of course I do," Wenqie answered before loosening his grip. With smiling eyes, he shifted his gaze and met Xiangshu's before huffing a bit. "This was once mine." Xiangshu looked at Wenqie in disbelief, but the other party seemed to be immersed in memories and just slowly continued, "It has no name, but some people call it the Protector's Shield or the Heavenly Demise. Legend has it that when Mount Buzhu crumbled, the ancient god used this shield to resist the falling heavenly pillars. It also used to be Xuanyan's, Queen Mother Xin, Fu Hao's, Prince Wuchen, Huang Fihu's, Qin Hualidaran's, Meng Aodaran, and his sons." "Xiangshu." "It was also Han Xin's, and Yang Buletin's," Wenqie said in a faint voice. "After Shifu's death, Yuanping and I competed hard for the positions of the Great Exorcist and the Protector Martial God, and this shield recognized me then. Inside the exorcism department, there was another person who also used to be its owner. Seeing this shield is equivalent to seeing the martial god, and picking it up means one has to shoulder the responsibility of protecting the world. Xiangshu, yet you relinquished it afterward. Correct. When Che turned around, half of his face was illuminated by the sunlight, highlighting his refined side profile, as he gazed up toward the sky. He sighed before continuing, that was the matter from a long time ago. Later on, I heard that after his surprise attack at Longcheng, Wei Qing, who had become the martial god, left the shield in Karakoram. He used it to suppress the earth vein in order to quell the resentment of the souls of Siwai's Xiongnu people whom he had slaughtered. Xiangshu put the shield away and asked, in that case, can it be used to refine the new Akala blade? After pondering for a while, Wen Che replied, I don't know. There's no harm in trying it, although you have to understand that while those who use swords serve as the 10,000 ren blades, whose first priority is to exterminate the enemy, people with shields act as the protectors of the world, their responsibility is to guard it. I think, the beliefs these two share are different. On the porch in the courtyard, Chen Xing stroked Xiao Shan's head. The sides were neatly styled, though the thick black hair on the youth's forehead and the crown still remained. They were drawn into Niamang braids gathered to the back of his head in the same hairstyle as Xiangshu's, back when he had still served as the great Chanyu. While it actually felt quite cool in these summer days, when combined with the Jin people's clothing, it still looked a bit out of place. What did you want to talk about? Chen Xing probed. He felt that Xiao Shan had grown up a lot in his heart, he was no longer that half-grown boy he used to be. After their reunion, Chen Xing had once inquired about what had happened in Shazhu, Dunhuang, but Xiao Shan had only shaken his head in silence. Tuoba Yan had asked him as well, only to end up with the same result. It had even made Chen Xing worry for a good amount of time until Xiangshu told him, if he doesn't want to talk, don't ask. And so, since Xiao Shan didn't say anything, Chen Xing also respected him and didn't pursue it any further. At least his return signified one thing, Lu Ying wouldn't come back. Chen Xing, am I the Grey Wolf? Xiao Shan asked Chen Xing. Chen Xing replied after thinking for a moment, do you think you are? When he saw Xiao Shan not saying anything, Chen Xing sighed with emotion and said, you're not who you are, you're just you. It's the same with Sima Wei and Ghost King. Chen Xing knew that Xiao Shan, ever since that thing with Sima Wei, must have begun to doubt this identity. The Grey Wolf had given his Yao power to Xiao Shan, just like how Zuyan had given his dragon power to Xiangshu. Although, in the years since they got to know each other, the question about who Xiangshu was had never crossed Chen Xing's mind. As to him, Xiangshu was just Xiangshu. You're right, Xiao Shan said. When are we going to fight against Shu? I still want to go further west to find Lu Ying after that. Soon ba. Looking pensive, Chen Xing then added, at the minimum, this time is better than 3 years ago, right? At least you know Lu Ying is still here, nay. A roaring thunder and a flash of lightning traveled across the sky, signifying the arrival of the rain. The heavy rain pattered down and caused the weather to cool down overnight. On the night of the first day of autumn, Xian and Chen Xing opened an altar on the stargazing platform in the imperial palace. After the weather turned cold, everyone added more layers to their clothes. Try it tonight, ba. Xian handed Jingguang Liulai over to Chen Xing. The bright moon had hidden itself, leaving only countless stars in the sky. The emperor had issued an order for the whole city of Jiankang to put out all of the lights tonight. The palace was in total darkness. One after another, officials and concubines came to the courtyard to look at the night sky. Sima Yao, with Pu Yang by his side, watched Chen Xing cast the spell. Chen Xing started the array, drawing in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the process, and activated Jingguang Liulai. Sima Yao asked, this magical artifact can collect the stars above. Starlight, To be precise, Chen Xing answered. This is the magical artifact made by Swiren Shi using the neodon of a type of Yao beasts called Kuawu. It was used to preserve the source of fire before being spread across the divine land. During its life, this kind of Yaoguai fed on lights. Xiang Shu raised his head toward the sky and motioned for Chen Xing to start. Chen Xing sometimes suspected, wouldn't you know the majority of what they were doing, no matter what it was? He might have already found out that the exorcists were planning to deal with him. Then again, it was clear there were a lot of things he wasn't aware of. For example, had he caught sight of Xian's plan to deal with Wang Zi, surely he wouldn't have sent him to attack the exorcism department then. Here I go, said Chen Xing. No matter what happens later, do not, by all means, make a fuss. The moment Chen Xing activated Jingguang Liyulai, a truly magnificent sight appeared. The stars that filled the sky shot out threads that flowed right into the pendant, while the lights all over the world disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, the people of Jiankang all exclaimed in surprise, their voices converging into low gasps. Amidst the darkness, a sinister voice sounded. Ignorant children. Chu's hoarse voice bellowed as darkness pervaded the air. Xiang Shu activated the light shield and held it by Chen Xing's side. Following that, the pitch-dark resentment condensed by Chu disappeared. Chen Xing was about to illuminate the darkness with the heart lamp when the stars above lit up once more. He knew after all, Chen Xing said. Don't be afraid of him, assured Xiang Shu in a low voice. What, was that just now? Sima Yao said, still shocked. Replying to your majesty, Pu Yang said, that is none other than the deity of war, Shu. Chen Xing gave the starlight-filled pendant to Xian, who handed it over to Xin Yuanping after looking at it. After everyone had a look, Xian put it away and concluded, indeed, it's feasible. Next, for the moonlight, Wen Che said, wait for the night of the Zaiwan festival. On the summer solstice, Xin Yuanping carried everyone and flew over the clouds to collect the sunlight. They now had with them the lights of the sun and the stars, and after obtaining the moonlight later at the Zaiwan festival, the year's winter solstice would arrive. At that time, Xin Yuanping would use the earth vein to set up a soul-binding array that would also function as a soul-separating device, to attempt to separate the heart lamp from Chen Xing's body. Rain poured down several times after the beginning of autumn, and the weather turned cooler with each passing day. Xiang Shu received replies from Dong Ying and Qi Li Chu on the preparations were complete. It was just that, although the scouts sent by Feng Qianjun had searched far and wide, they still couldn't locate the Huanmo Palace. On this day, Xiang Shu and Chen Xing went to the imperial palace to meet Sima Yao. Chen Xing, having finished revising all of the clauses for the rebuilt exorcism department, had formulated regulations stating that the exorcists must not involve themselves in politics nor participate in wars between humans. Although, as one of the creators of the re-established exorcism department after the revival of all magic, Xian was an exception to these rules. After the final battle against Fujian, however, he would resign from his position in the court and return to the exorcism department. He also gave his word to Chen Xing that if war broke out, he would try his utmost to avoid the battlefield. Nor would he bombard the enemy troops with magic, that is, unless the Qin army had drought fiends among their ranks. At the same time, news came from the Central Plains. Fujian was preparing to go to war, though it wasn't with the south. His first target was Murongchang. After leaving Qi Li Chuan, Murongchang had since established an independent regime in Luoyang and Pingyang. While he didn't rebel against Fujian, he also no longer heeded to the Great Qin's orders, clearly only barely keeping up the pretense. How many people did he send? Asked Chen Xing. Are there drought fiends? According to the information we received, there aren't any, Xian said. The question now is, do we fight or not? After getting the promise, Chen Xing gave Sima Yao an explanation. Sima Yao, contrary to what one might expect, was actually a reasonable man. he gladly nodded and accepted Chen Xing's principles. In any case, as long as the exorcism department was in Jiankang, he had nothing to worry about, as in, I don't mind if you don't want to take part in the war, but if the enemy troops really were invading Jiankang, the Great Jin's downfall would mean the massacre of the aristocrats and people's bread and butter. Would it be possible for you exorcists to sit idly then? When one kept declaring over and over that they weren't on any side, that in itself was the side. Regarding this, Sima Yao had always been the one who let nature take its course. Based on what you're saying, Sima Yao said, Chen Xianzhen is not to take part in the war, because the troops sent by Fu Jian to attack Murongchang are none other than Murongchuis. All of them are Xianbei people. Yes. Chen Xing nodded. Even though Murongchang is my friend, we still can't send the exorcists to his aid. But should there be any drought fiends among Fu Jian's ranks, now that's another story. Hence, they reached an agreement. Xian began to closely monitor Fu Jian's movement. The exorcists would immediately intervene the moment a drought fiend showed up. An imperial guard presented each exorcist with a begonia when they left the palace. Chen Xing, recalling that he and Xiangshu had yet to be together when they had first come here, pinned the flower on him as a warm feeling involuntarily rippled in his heart. Tomorrow is the autumn deity again, said Chen Xing. Xiangshu looked down at the flower and replied, tomorrow is your birthday. And I don't celebrate the autumn deity. Chen Xing laughed. I almost forgot. It's unlike in the past where every year, it was equal to celebrating one less year of life. Xiangshu asked, will you still accompany me to celebrate it this year? Chen Xing said, that's a matter of course. Feng Qianjun returned at this time and chimed in, Tianke, for tomorrow's festival, I'd like to ask you. No. Xiangshu said. Chen Xing sincerely replied, I'm not free. Let's put it off until after the festival Ba. I wanted to ask you both to go appreciate the autumn view. I didn't plan to invite you alone. Later Ba, Chen Xing said again before pulling Xiangshu away. Oddly enough, after igniting together their mana on that day, Xiangshu's temper seemed to have become much better. Not only did he seldom get angry at Chen Xing now, but the two also seemed to have even more mutual understanding compared to before. Sometimes, words hadn't even come out of Xiangshu's mouth, just a slight emotion, and Chen Xing would sense it. This so-called igniting together was just like linking their hun and po. For example, when Xiangshu occasionally glanced at the youths inside the exorcism department when they were walking together, Chen Xing inexplicably sensed that he was only paying attention to people who looked at Chen Xing inquisitively and was eating vinegar a little bit. Or how Xiangshu sometimes minded about what others inside the exorcism department said about them, including the newcomers, who were curious about what the great exorcist and the protector did normally. What's more, Chen Xing could also vividly sense that Xiangshu was usually distracted during their conversations, his mind filled with only one thought, that he wanted to hold Chen Xing in his arms and kiss him, or perhaps touch him. It was different than before. Chen Xing hadn't been able to understand Xiangshu, nor could he guess what had been on his mind then, although occasionally speaking, Xiangshu still would feel unhappy for no apparent reason. But now that he was able to feel it, he sensed that Xiangshu's hostility, for most parts, stemmed from wanting to take an initiative to be closer to Chen Xing, only to find it embarrassing to carry out the act. As a result, he somewhat put the blame on why is Chen Xing not taking any initiative, and thus found himself feeling dismayed. Nowadays, once he perceived the emotion, Chen Xing would proactively reach out and touch the back of Xiangshu's hand. He would also let Xiangshu embrace him when nobody was around, making his heart truly overjoyed. This was the effect of igniting together. Chen Xing now roughly understood why Xin Yuanping had been aware of Wen Chei's feelings that day. It was just, this power only worked one way. In other words, while Chen Xing was aware of some of Xiangshu's thoughts, Xiangshu, for most parts, didn't know what Chen Xing was thinking. For example, Just like right now after returning to the room inside the exorcism department, Xiangshu said, "Yes, you do like hustle and bustle." Chen Xing immediately sensed that Xiangshu's mood slightly dampened, the reason being that he wanted to spend time alone with Chen Xing on the autumn deity, undisturbed by other people. "I want to spend the day alone with you." Chen Xing smiled. He moved behind Xiangshu and hugged him around the waist. Xiangshu's unhappiness immediately evaporated from his mind. He turned around in Chen Xing's embrace before pressing him on the couch as he looked down at him. "You choose then," Xiangshu said, staring at Chen Xing with a gaze full of meaning. "Do you want to stroll around or hear my plan?" Chen Xing held Xiangshu's neck and actively kissed him. The two men kissed until they were out of breath. "Of course, I'll hear your plan." Xiangshu suddenly let go of Chen Xing and said, "I can't stand this. Let's separate for a bit." In order to practice the technique to ignite together, they had to follow strict rules, with one of them being the prohibition of all penetration except for practice purposes. They only dual cultivated on the 1st and the 15th day of each month, and they must practice for 1 year and complete the 12-month cycle. The first time that he had been made aware of this, Chen Xing had immediately been driven crazy. "What? We're only allowed to do it twice per month." Xiangshu only accepted this outcome after having to go through a lot of psychological struggles. After all, they only needed to persevere for a year, and it wasn't like they were completely banned from doing it. They had 2 times a month, and that itself was already a blessing. For Chen Xing, he actually felt very good after accepting it. Living like the Hu people and going at it like animals for 3 months while indulging in pleasure was, admittedly, very satisfactory, but it was appropriate to restrain one's desires when living in Jiankang. Treating each other with genuine feelings had its own kind of pleasure. Generally speaking, everything was like this: the more one had it, the more difficult for people to cherish it. After starting the practice, Chen Xing only felt that intense love he had couldn't find an outlet, and everything turned into venting out his admiration for Xiangshu. After Xiangshu began to restrain himself, there was only Chen Xing in his eyes. After all, since he wasn't able to solve it every day, they could only talk while embracing each other, just like that night after they had exchanged their vow. Xiangshu just stuck close to him most of the time, and the two of them would just chat about unimportant things. As they spoke, Chen Xing laughed again when he discovered that while Xiangshu was looking into his eyes, his mind was full of those thoughts. He was truly like a wild beast that deliberately restrained itself. "Take a bath," Xiangshu said in a low voice, "get through this evening. We're good to go tomorrow." Chen Xing heard the sound of cold water that Xiangshu poured on himself in the courtyard. "We're good to go tomorrow. I must restrain myself by all means tonight." The next day, the inside of the exorcism department was painted with blazing maple leaves. Waking up early in the morning, Chen Xing heard a bustle coming from outside. After changing clothes and washing his face, he went to the courtyard and saw that Xiangshu was currently combing a horse's mane. All Chen Xing wanted to do right now was to see him. He was itching to pounce on Xiangshu and peel his clothes off. When Xiangshu looked at Chen Xing's eyes, Chen Xing knew that he too was hardly able to restrain it. "I am awake," said Chen Xing, feeling a little strange as to why Xiangshu didn't kiss him, starting the day with an action similar to the way it had been several times before. "Let's go," asked Xiangshu. "Go down the mountain for a stroll. No need to change clothes." "Okay." Chen Xing gladly nodded. The two of them were dressed in combinations of azure, white, and black gauze today. Xiangshu wore the loose white pants as before. It was obviously so he could take it off easily, with the waist part being tied on his hips with a slip knot. On the upper part of his body was a semi-transparent, casually fastened black robe that bared half of his chest and collarbone. Chen Xing, on the other hand, wore unlined gauze clothing with similar ankle-bound flax trousers. They both wore light leather flip-flops. Xiang Shu first asked Chen Xing to get on the horse before he himself sat behind holding him. The meager piece of clothing separating them made Chen Xing could even feel the temperature coming from Xiang Shu's chest. After half a month of abstinence, being hugged like this made Chen Xing unable to stop the ripples in his heart. Xiang Shu, however, very steadily took him all the way down the East Mountain on the horse. The fair was already crowded with people appreciating maple leaves and drinking wine. "It's exactly the same as how it was the first time I was here," Chen Xing commented with a smile. After tying up the horse by the road, Xiang Shu took Chen Xing by the hand and entered the fair with their fingers intertwined. "I'll take you somewhere." Chen Xing saw many men and women moving to and fro along the way, their hands in each other's, with moonshell red strings tied on their wrists. Xiang Shu saw it as well. He shot a glance at Chen Xing with eyes filled with reproach. Chen Xing. Xiang Shu's current mood was very complicated. While Chen Xing was unable to discern it through the connection gained from the act of igniting together, he just felt that the emotion was quite strange. "What are you thinking?" asked Chen Xing. Xiang Shu didn't respond. Chen Xing said in delight, "Why did you turn into the mute all of a sudden?" Talking to the mute, Chen Xing suddenly recalled, "Do you want to give me something? What else can you do besides bullying the mute?" Xiang Shu, at last, spoke up. Chen Xing finally realized that this was what he had used a long time ago to probe Xiang Shu. When the two of them arrived in front of the stall, the peddler smilingly said, "Hello. You two are here again." Why did I say again?" Chen Xing laughed out loud at once, while Xiang Shu just unflinchingly said, "I'm buying too. Take this, keep the change." Xiang Shu gave the peddler a gold ingot, which almost made them faint on the spot. They, fearing Xiang Shu would go back on his promise, gave the whole shelf to Xiang Shu and said, "It's all yours," before promptly running away after taking the gold ingot. "Xiang Shu, you pick. Which two did you pick last time?" Xiang Shu knitted his brows, looking at one side. Each moonshell had its own unique shape, and Chen Xing only wanted to find the one he had taken a fancy to during the previous autumn deity. When he was to complete this wish, however, he found he couldn't recall it clearly. Xiang Shu couldn't stand the scene any longer and finally said, "This, and this." As he said this, he accurately picked two strings out from hundreds of moonshell bracelets. He spread them out on his broad palms before signaling Chen Xing to take a look. "Really? Why do I remember it's this one?" Saying so, Chen Xing fetched out another one and compared it with the ones in Xiang Shu's hand. Xiang Shu finally blew up and said, I'm celebrating my birthday." Chen Xing defended. "Are you going to scold me on my birthday?" Xiang Shu was left with no choice but to forcibly quell down his anger. He controlled his temper and patiently said, "For countless times every single night, I looked at this bracelet over and over. How could I recognize the wrong string?" Chen Xing's heart was so moved he clenched the 4 bracelets in his hands to the point he almost cried. He suddenly hugged Xiang Shu and silently buried himself in his chest. Xiang Shu felt a little at a loss at this time. Fine, whatever. Both of them felt they were almost unable to control themselves after no less than half a month, and Xiang Shu had a look that indicated he was already quickly losing rationality. If it hadn't been because it was broad daylight and the fact that they were in a fair, something would have surely happened. "That's the one, I'm sure." Chen Xing also recognized the string he had once carried. There was a shallow scratch on its surface. So Xiang Shu threw a string to Chen Xing. He then stowed the other one before turning and walking away. "Oi, wait." Chen Xing said. "You're not giving that to me." "Why?" Xiang Shu was baffled. "Give me a reason." "You don't love me." Chen Xing stopped moving and said, amused. Xiang Shu seriously replied, "That depends on your behavior. Let's go." Chen Xing was helpless and could only follow Xiang Shu to leave. However, instead of giving him the bracelet, Xiang Shu took him straight to the front of a house. He grabbed the knocker and knocked a few times. Chen Xing, where is this again? Xiang Shu, open up. As there was still no answer from the inside, Xiang Shu pushed the door open. Chen Xing thought, you're really polite this time. Going by Xiang Shu's usual temperament, someone making an appointment with him only for them not to answer his knocks and miss said appointment just signified that they didn't respect Xiang Shu at all. There was only one outcome for that, Xiang Shu kicking the door open. Surprisingly, you didn't just kick it, commented Chen Xing. Because this is my own house's door. If I did kick it, wouldn't it also be me who had to fix it? What? Chen Xing was surprised. Xiang Shu originally wanted Chen Xing to take a look at the residence he bought for him. He just didn't expect that all of the workers had gone out to enjoy themselves on today's autumn deity. The new residence had been arranged for the most part, and the wisteria flower stands had been set up. Never did Chen Xing dream that Xiang Shu would surprise him with a house. This place was very spacious, equivalent to the former residence of that Jiankang salt merchant. Xiang Shu spent a lot of money buying the property, not to mention he also bought the residences along the banks of Huai River in order to expand it. Several buildings were wound up in what looked like a long strip, and separated by the river in the distance was the Wei Lane. From the viewing platform on the third floor, they could catch sight of the Xie family's and the Wang family's gardens. The backyard was a huge garden connected to the Huai River, with the wisteria put on the bank. From the entrance to the end, the area was approximately 1 li long. They can't grow just yet. Xiang Shu looked up. Tell Feng Qianjun to just come another day. The flowering season for wisteria is over. Chen Xing felt inexplicably touched. But it is beautiful nonetheless. It's also very pretty in autumn. The vines fell in autumn, and their growth couldn't be considered good. But the flower racks spanning no less than 1 li facing the Huai River were really a marvelous sight. Xiang Shu replied, so long as you like it. For this huge mansion to house only 2 people was really a waste. There was a qin room, a tea room, a huge study, as well as a bedroom overlooking the river with a curtain to cover the inside part. It was just, not all of the rooms had been put in order, the grey water hadn't been cleaned again, the ladders were thrown at random, and the bed hadn't been delivered. Xiang Shu really miscalculated and said, I didn't expect the people to be so lazy. I didn't watch them for half a month and thought it would be all finished by now. Only then did Chen Xing realize that Xiang Shu had wanted to bring him to the new house today to play and do that in the bedroom. He couldn't help but mock him. You were the great Chan Yu, of course people under you rushed to do what you ordered them to do back then. Who dared to delay? Now that you've changed identity and become a lord, workers naturally can procrastinate for a day or two to receive larger sums of salaries. Xiang Shu was totally pissed off and looked at Chen Xing. Chen Xing held his hand and said, I'm not afraid to get dirty. We can also do it right here. Xiang Shu fell silent, his gaze lowering to meet Chen Xing's eyes. The breeze coming from the river sent the curtain flying, and although they were in a messy shack of a room, the wind that brought along the flavor of autumn still appeared to be completely unaffected. Xiang Shu fished the bracelet out and handed it to Chen Xing. I've heard Yuhan people use this as a means to exchange a love token, said Xiang Shu. The mute can't speak. For you. Chen Xing lifted his hand, his face flushing red. After giving the string to Chen Xing, Xiang Shu waited silently. At that moment, Chen Xing suddenly noticed that Xiang Shu felt a little nervous in his waiting. What are you nervous about? Chen Xing thought it was funny. Are you afraid I won't give it to you? I don't know, replied Xiang Shu honestly. I'm afraid of losing you. Chen Xing fetched his own red string and raised his head to look up at Xiang Shu. When Xiang Shu extended his hand, Chen Xing tiptoed a little bit and kissed him on the lips. Wait. Xiang Shu immediately stopped him. Not here, what are you doing? Don't play any dirty tricks. Shall we return to the exorcism department? Chen Xing was both brimming with nervousness and a little expectation. Let's go. Going out like this? Xiang Shu couldn't believe it. Or else. Chen Xing said. Do you want me to take it off? I won't tie it up again afterward. After pulling Xiang Shu's hand and leaving the new residence, Chen Xing mischievously and deliberately led him through the crowd first. Xiang Shu's face looked very uncomfortable, and he was always slightly behind Chen Xing, keeping his gaze down and muttering nothing good. Your face is so red, Chen Xing said. Nonsense, Xiang Shu whispered in a threatening voice. Xiang Shu walked through the downtown area all while wearing the love tokens bracelet in such a way. He was flushed from the face all the way down to the neck, and he could be seen rearranging his thin outer robe from time to time. He used the wide sleeves of his robe to cover when the wind blew, albeit not too obviously. This walk was practically an unforgettable experience for the rest of Xiang Shu's life. He tried his best pretending nothing was happening, clenching Chen Xing's hand, but the strength used to do that already betrayed his mind. After much difficulty, he arrived at the place where he had tied the horse. He immediately stepped on the stirrup and quickly mounted up, and finally, he felt a lot better. He extended his hand to Chen Xing and said, "Come on up." Chen Xing sat in front. At this time, Xiang Shu's complexion finally returned to normal. What's this pressing against me? Chen Xing turned around and said. Cut the crap. Chia. Xiang Shu shook the reins and left Jiankong following the western gate. End chapter.